in your own words, who's Bukunmi Grace?
Bukunmi Grace is an adventurous, enigmatic, charismatic, loving, generous being who's trying to
I like how you're
ascend.
saying. I thought you said like 3 words, like cool, calm, collected, something like that.
I mean, the thing is, like, anyone is so many adjectives. So, like, it's just a matter of how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
Or, tomorrow I might be just cool, calm, collected. Next day I might be, depressed. And
I think that's cool that you say that, because it's like, it's human to go through different emotions. So to truly try and like capture yourself in a few words,
it's difficult.
That is kind of like,
it's difficult.
Really
all I can give you is how I'm feeling right now in the present and my emotions. But I feel like, the brand voice, identifying a brand voice is different than like identifying who a person is.
That's
true.
True.
If I was going to do like, if you're like, okay, what is the brand voice of Bukunmi Grace? I can tell you it feels like mint green and salmon and joy and love,
And you describe it with, like, your choice of adjectives are they're sort of abstract. No, because you're like green and salmon. Like, it's cool. I like it.
Because it's not real. Like, is that an adjective or descriptive?
No, it is. It's just more like, I don't know. I was just expecting what
Swift.
usually. Yeah, just like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
so
that.
what does a day in your life usually entail?
Wow. I think a day in my life is always kind of striving for balance.
Yeah.
Because I do various creative jobs, but also just the things I'm interested in general. So I always start out trying to like pray or meditate,
That's good.
or at least write, because otherwise my thoughts are so scattered.
You have to center yourself.
So I have to do that, and then once I'm able to do that, it kind of just goes into like computer, like email. Then I'd go into listing, and then some days I might have a shoot, or some days I might be writing something or preparing for something. It kind of depends on the task. But there was one day that I did both photography, styling, and I went home and wrote.
So you did everything.
I did everything. So I feel like if and in the morning I also like mood board and brainstorm like the art deck. So it's like, if I was going to describe what an everyday could look like, it would be like that. But I think that every day is so different depending on the mood and the vibe and the request. What I'm focused on, whether it's like spiritual work or physical work or, client work.
Okay, I'm curious. What came first, your love for photography or your love for fashion?
I would say my love for fashion, for sure. It developed into me seeking ways to work in fashion, and the way I first started was in managing designers, and I was managing one of my friends, and her line was named Goka, and we were able to get into New York Fashion Week, and
That's amazing.
just being backstage at New York Fashion Week, like meeting all these, like J. Alexander and Tyra Banks and all these people that you just see on TV, and the feeling, the mood, and we were literally skipping class in college.
I was about to say, it's an adrenaline, like,
yeah,
it feels like that.
I maintained a solid B in college. That's all I could manage. That's all I could manage with the. I was always pursuing fashion. Like, I was. We didn't really have a fashion course, so I met with one of the teachers, and we just got along really well, and she started formulating a course, and it developed into like a fashion photography art, like comprehensive course, and doing that and then working in different organizations, I think it just developed naturally. But working with the designers, I realized that the major need that they had was for imagery. And I was able to identify that and just started testing with them. And simultaneously, I was working at a vintage store.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I was
I
also working at a vintage store with my boss, Stanley, and he's a G. Like, he showed me a lot about like fashion and just manufacturing and textile, and I actually bought my first camera from him.
So kind of relationships, very organic.
I bought my first camera from him, and so I was shooting for the store, and I was shooting for them, and I just realized, like, oh, this is actually what I want to do. I want to just keep doing this and figure it out, and I felt like I was going to be on this lifelong journey of figuring out because I didn't study that in college. You know, I studied international relations.
I was
So,
about to ask that.
so I
Oh,
felt
okay.
like definitely needed to bring that aspect of my collegial years into my artwork, but I just knew that this was going to be my actual like lifelong chase was going to be photography or something involving the fashion, the arts. Yeah.
I feel like it's good that you had the international relations background though, because like that is really what like art is global. Art is it translates everywhere.
And understanding how to communicate art on a global scale was very important to me because that was just always my quest. Like, how can I intersect what I've learned? And a lot of the things I learned were actually very sad. Just learning about the politics of the world on that level was very dismal. But it's like, okay, I understand this is how the world works because of that. But this is what I want to do, and how can I tie those two things? And I think that's always been like my quest. Like, how can I go beyond the beauty, but also like magnify the beauty in the disparity? So yeah, just kind of a mixture of both.
Do you feel like you're sort of getting closer to answering that question, like in your quest? I mean, I know life is an ongoing journey, but
I'm beginning to, I feel like, finally unravel how to answer that question for myself and for other people. And there are personal projects that I'm working on that kind of examine that a bit. And I think until I've released those and I've had the conversations I need to around those, I won't feel like I have really tapped into that question fully. Although I think, in aspects of my work and the way I formulate and think, it kind of imbues in that, or lives through that. But I think there's way more, ways to keep like answering that question and keep identifying how to answer that question.
I feel like your art is very, what's the word? Like, it's very intentional though. Like, I feel like your voice and what you're trying to advocate or push is very apparent in your art, even though it is pretty and whatnot. Like, I feel like it's still there.
I'm glad you
No, that's why.
I used to be shocked when I would get like written, write-ups, and the editor would already like have a description about my work, and a lot of them would say that, like, especially because I was shooting a lot of rappers when I first started out, and I was shooting them unintentionally, I guess, or intentionally, very intentionally, without me even thinking about it. Subconsciously. Under like a female gaze, and they identified that perspective, and they identified the body politics I was working with, and even with the celebrities I was shooting and showcasing them in a specific light. And it was beautiful to read that from someone else because I don't think about it that way. I work out of passion, so if I'm led to a story or I want to pursue an idea, I just try to do it, and I follow it in my gut instinct and like this, and so it's always refreshing when someone else is like like wants to write a synopsis of my work. I'm like
synopsis.
Love to see it.
I like that. Okay, so I read once that you would bawl your eyes out watching Alexander McQueen fashion shows, right?
Why did I share
that?
So just kidding.
What exactly about his artistry like influenced you and your craft?
I think when I was a child, I was just very lonely. Like, I wasn't really allowed to like hang out, with people. And the library was literally like my best friend, and finding comfort in that. And of course, I've read a lot of different stories, but I remember just discovering his work and then reading his life story about his, his love for his mom, the maternal attraction, and respect, and also the depression and the emotional abuse that he endured and suffered, and also presented on other people. I think it was just a really powerful way to be introduced to that at such a young age, because I was feeling so angsty even at like I think I was like 14. I was feeling angsty, and I was feeling a little bit, probably like now I would say like terminally depressed, but like then I was just like in this bubble, like this really happy bubble that was given to me, and but I didn't identify with it, and it was just always such a convoluted struggle for me. So just reading someone else's story and then seeing visually how they present that through their art, and understanding that art is, for a lot of people like him, a saving grace, and possibly for me, as well could be. So I think that was my first like, aha, like this is
yeah.
different. This is a good way to let out all those emotions and feelings, and he did a really beautiful job of doing that.
I agree. I feel like his story is very beautiful and also tragic.
Yeah,
It's like
really dark.
it's one of those. But
Yeah. But I think that like beauty and tragedies is like,
hand in hand, sort
you know,
of. Yeah.
it's the cornerstone of life. So
Yeah.
it's important to have that in any like work surrounding beauty and fashion and art, and in general, like in conversations as well. I think it's important to have that knowledge that both sides are equally important.
Yeah. It's bittersweet. Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to being a photographer and a stylist, you're also a writer.
Yeah.
Would you say that storytelling is like a very important part of who you are, and why?
I think I had no choice. I think it was
why?
just like
Why do you think you
the
could
spirits presented to me. Well, I wasn't trying to write. Like the whole time, I didn't even. I was never trying to write.
Yeah.
My father's a writer, and he's a journalist, and it was part of the reason that we left Nigeria because he was a political writer. And so I was ready, and he was always telling me, even in high school, don't ever become a journalist.
I can imagine.
Do not ever become a journalist. Don't become a writer. They don't make any money. We can't do this. I got everything, you know. So I was like, yeah, not gonna do that. So that's why I was like politics, but then I'm like, not gonna do either. But writing, I'm just interested in stories, like in general. I've always been interested in other people because I was super shy when I was younger. So meeting someone who has great character and personality has always been intriguing to me. And then when you hear their stories, it further just like pulls you into their humanity. And I think that, you know, writing started for me in college a little bit as well, because I took a chance to take a poetry class, and I was super nervous about it because, like I explained, I've always done well in writing. I understand it because my father also was like proofreading me my work when I was in third grade, like years, you know. So I've always had that in the back of my head. You have to speak right, especially in this world too. You know, you have to express yourself correctly, but I forced myself to be in this creative writing class because I'm like, I need to understand dimensions of that. And I think upon reading like my first poem, like the whole class was like silent, and the teacher was just looking at me like with big eyes, and I'm like, what did I do? And she's like, that was incredible.
See?
And I'm like,
it's
shocked,
just a dramatic,
you know. So I think it came from that, having that confidence from that, you know, that experience. And then I fell into writing with publications because, firstly, because I was pitching people that I loved. I was pitching my boyfriend. I was literally just pitching my boyfriend. I was like, hey, he's going to South by Southwest, Highsnobiety. Do you want to? Can you guys like mention him or something? Like literally DMing people, like just. And someone just took a chance. They're like, hey, well, you know, nice to meet you. You know, why don't you write about it? Like write about it, shoot some images, send it to me, and we'll see how it is. And I did, and she liked it, and that was one of my first articles. And then it kind of just like snowballed into that. And I think before that I was doing like small writing pieces. Someone would ask me to write, like, hey, we see you're doing this, do you want to write about it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, like I've written for like Galore and like other places just for fun. But that was the first time I realized, oh, okay, someone like actually sees I can do that. And then from then I was just getting a lot of pieces from them particularly, and then it stemmed into like Hypebeast and other publications that were like, okay, we see that, like, hey,
we want that.
And I was like, sure. But actually writing is not, it has to be, even now, like it has to be super specific to what I'm already doing. It has to be something I already love. Like there's a lot of energy that goes into writing.
No, I agree.
You know?
No, I do, because I feel like sometimes I'm like I want to write what I want to write about. It's like, I don't know.
You also want to like make money for writing because it's your job, and a lot of people start expecting things from you too when
you don't
write.
Want to lose like your essence because you're just writing about anything that comes to you. You know, it's like one of those things.
and I couldn't. A lot of times people were like, "Oh, we see that you just posted something with like, I don't know, like Elle, can you write about this soft drink?" I'm like, "What?" I was in Jamaica. Like I was shooting in Jamaica. I was shooting like popcorn in Jamaica. Like it's I'm not, and I was writing about it. That's different than like
Shouldn't I?
here's this drink that no one needs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So being exposed to like multiple cultures, particularly Nigeria and America, how does that influence like your art direction and your styling approach?
I think I've always been the like odd Nigerian a bit because I'm from Nigeria.
Yeah.
But I came here and I immediately went straight into a supremely like white world.
Yeah.
And that was my world for a really long time because I didn't really think about it. Like I knew the Nigerian kids and Polish kids in my building, but like when I went to different schools and like I played violin and after school programs, it was mostly like white people. So being in college was my first time being surrounded by Nigerian people, like Nigerian,
like actual Nigerian.
Yeah, I found out so much about my own culture there, and I think I like photography. But I've still been on this like quest to reclaim my identity, reclaim my culture identity. I went back to Nigeria like later in college, and that was more of a shock to me being there than being in Israel and Spain, where I'd spent time abroad too, and it was just such an interesting dynamic. So I've always been kind of like questing for Africa, like questing for my return back to Africa and for our universal return back to Africa, and understanding that how that plays into the work I do, and also particularly I went back to South Africa when I started my career in LA, which is in Calabasas, and I did a really difficult time in my career, and being there, and that I would say was really the start of my photography career because I was photographing for fun and usual, but that was my first placement with Elle. And being there and like just reclaiming African roots and identity, especially through a different African culture, was so powerful for me. And I think that's always been back in my mind, like going back to that place of collaboration, creativity, ingenuity, like just the genius aspects of African culture. And I think I always go back there whenever I'm feeling a little bit lost and misguided and confused, and I actually ended up going back there this last winter, and it was the same as last time. It was just this like refreshing re-anointing of like creative like power, kind of.
It's like going back to your roots, essentially.
Yeah, so I think it's at the end of the day, it's always there because it's who I am, but it's also really prevalent because I'm interested in that aspect of myself because I don't think I fully grasped. I haven't fully tapped into it. So,
So would you consider like going back to South Africa for like the L shoot? Would you consider that to be one of your most memorable moments in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I probably have like 3 moments. I'm like, okay, that was cool.
3 moments. Okay, what are the other 2 moments?
That was cool. Photographing Alicia Keys was cool.
There's 3. Just 3 moments.
No,
so
I got a lot. It's just
I know what you
I guess
mean.
Ashanti was really cool. Like photographing her was that was incredible. Offset working with Migos, that was incredible. Shooting for Target, that was incredible because I'm like, Target, I can tell my parents about this.
Cool. And everybody, it's like
and it was Target tag, and it was a whole different attitude and shoot than I've ever experienced. Like I had people calling me like, we've been watching you for 3 years. We've been trying to book you for 3, and I'm like, what?
To hear that.
Yeah.
Like, so if where do you know me from?
Like, so shocked. So it's like moments like that make it really rewarding to do what I do. And then there's like obviously moments in between, like moments with my like loved ones, like really big moments for us that are also really memorable for me. Yeah. It's not just 3.
I'm just I have to mess with you a little bit.
I appreciate that. I get it.
Okay. My next question. Let's see. Do you have a creative process?
Do I have a creative process? My creative process is figuring out my creative process.
Really? Okay.
But I do. I would say I do. Like everyone has to.
I feel like some people you don't even realize sometimes you have a process.
Yeah, I had to because I was getting so discombobulated with the projects I was working on, and I think at one point I was like working on 20 different projects, and I'm like, my head's spinning. I don't know why. So I went to go talk to my friend Rachel, one of my friends, Rachel, who's investment capital, like just genius, like woman, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do I like? How can I? What process can I she's like, where do you write all your thoughts down? I'm like, what do you mean?
I don't.
I don't even. She's like, you need to go write everything down. You need to map out the next 5 months. You need to write a timeline. You need to do a goal set. And I'm like, that, and I did that, and that, I think that was the biggest thing that helped me, just writing everything out, writing everything down. Whenever you're feeling, whenever I'm feeling just really heavy on the mind, just grabbing a new journal, a whiteboard, like these things have helped me more than than I would even imagined. But outside of that, usually if I'm feeling a little bit just like scattered, I'll start with writing and meditating. I have my drinks, I have my, I got my things.
I make it a vibe.
I make a mean kombucha, just put it out there. And then I'll just dive into it. And then I also watch for distractions, because I think that's my number one, problem. I think most creatives, it's just distractions. You don't even know when you're distracting yourself.
Too many things catch your eye.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, how do I limit distractions? Because if I can do that, then everything else is more streamlined.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, if you had a one-woman show, what would your production be?
What would I be doing?
Yeah,
who would I hire?
It's
I guess
one
it was
woman,
me.
so it'll be you. What would you do? What would you play?
I would.
It's a lot, I know, but you can handle it.
I would have to charge really high for this.
Yes, of
but
course.
I would play violin. I would be taking photos while playing violin, and I would also be painting, with my toe, while smoking a joint.
Oh, that.
And reading a book.
I mean, I'm the one who asked the question. Okay.
And I think it's very possible.
I've seen some. If you can imagine it.
I've seen some things in Amsterdam. It's very.
Can you imagine?
It's very possible to make happen.
Okay, I would love this.
Would you come?
Oh no, I'll be there. Smoking with you, painting with you.
Cool.
I'll be there. Okay.
Okay, sweet.
Let's talk about fashion for a while.
Okay.
So, given the current climate, from COVID pandemic to police brutality to just a general push for reformation, where do you honestly see the future of fashion?
I mean, ideal, future fashion, all the racist, intolerant, dismissive brands would be eliminated, because the general population would have higher consciousness to purchase the right things for their bodies, and understand their bodies are a temple, and the clothing that they put on is representative of that. But that's some.
No, it's true. I
agree. Some wild shit. That's some wild shit, wild future. But I think what's really gonna happen is that things are gonna slowly return back to how they were. Because a lot of brands have had to, dissolve collections. They might bring out collections a little bit slower, and then have more of a push towards just sustainability. The bigger push towards sustainability, and that's more of a talking point. I think that's going to happen. However, some people will fall, I think the majority will still keep going the way they want to, for some strange reasons. No one really wants that. No, but I think the people that are at the top of the brands are we just want to make money, but I don't know if that's going to be justifiable in the long run.
I feel it also has to do with the consumers. A lot of people have herd mentality.
True.
So it's okay, nobody's protesting anymore. We'll just go back to our old ways. When they start protesting again, or calling people out, then it's not very few people I feel, unfortunately, actually just think for themselves.
That's
and
true.
There's a lot of noise to a lot of information. So it's
absolutely.
There's a lot of sheep out there. That's
so
just
it's
not true.
If everyone continues to be sheeps to fashion, specific fashion and media and everything else, they're going to be able to continue the way that they have been.
I hope not.
I hope not.
So what aspects of the industry do you think will become obsolete? I mean, there's already virtual fashion shows that have zero models, so do you think there are some aspects that will just literally just die off?
Yeah, I think there will be less showcases, less presentations. I think brands are realizing how expensive it is and how unnecessary it is. People will still shop even if they're not going anywhere. I'm how are people still shopping? But I'm still shopping. But I'm not. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. So it'll still keep continuing, but I really do think it's up to consumers to just curtail that.
Yeah. That's true. I agree.
I'm always a huge fan of vintage fashion, so
same. I thoroughly enjoy it.
you know, as a stylist, I actually don't really shop for myself, which I know is a
Same.
fortune. It's like
Same.
it's definitely a benefit of the job, but when I do shop for myself, it'll be like it might be a really more expensive piece I just hold on to, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
quality too. You have to
yeah,
think about,
I'm planning to either pass this on to someone or resell it.
Yeah, exactly. I think
But not everyone has accessibility. But I don't think that there still needs to be this like mass herd mentality with fashion. Like
so. Yeah.
there are so many cheap places to get, like the dollar sale.
That's
Like,
what I think too. I
like
feel
the
like
dollar sale La Brea.
I think
vintage
there's a lot of
shops,
things
like
they don't like. It still comes down to herd mentality, because if you go to a thrift store, like you could get even all the luxury pieces you want, you can get it for literally quarter the price. Like if
Yeah.
that's really what you're looking
Absolutely.
for, and you can get just like really cool, really quality, really like unique pieces. But
Yeah.
again, you have to be. I feel like you have to have a certain level of like self-awareness to
Yeah,
go
to
out
even
and
chase
like,
that.
do that.
I think it also depends on like it's like self-awareness that you've like created yourself through experiences or
Yeah.
literally how you were raised. And I think for most Black and brown people in America, like and immigrants,
Yeah.
you're raised with nothing, or like you're
Yeah.
raised with
Little.
little to nothing, or even the idea that if you do have something, go away like that in the flash because
Yeah.
your family just got it.
Yeah.
So it's
Sure.
like I think we're also already prescribed to a sustainable culture, and now it's just like everyone else who's on the outside of that, like
Yeah.
from rich, you know, extremely wealthy
Yeah.
Black and brown people to, you know, to middle class to wealthy white collar and white people, just realizing like that's not
what it's about.
necessary.
Yeah, yeah.
But how are you going to tell someone who has $1 million that they can't buy a new
How
Chanel
are
bag?
you? Exactly. You
It's like,
don't.
I guess if you want to, you could buy a school. Just putting that out there, but you can also buy a Chanel bag.
That's true.
Yeah.
But what would you say is a unique attribute of the fashion industry, if any, if you can think of
I
any?
think that the fashion industry presents itself wholly as an oasis, a respite for a lot of people who have endured emotional or physical suffering or have been
Yeah.
outcast. Like, I found it's way easier to become friends with fashion people, even though people
Really?
think it's not. But I find it way easier than others who haven't, you know, who are not in that industry,
Yeah.
because I face a lot of people, one, who are like LGBTQ, so they,
Yeah.
you know, and they've fled into fashion because of how they were
Expression, yeah,
treated.
of course.
Or Black and brown people who are just like, we need some other outlet, we
Yeah.
need something to keep us motivated and giving really great items, you know. So like most of the editors I know in fashion are Black. Like it's
Yeah,
just
a lot
it's,
of them actually.
you know, so
Yeah.
those are
That's
people
true.
that are leading the conversation. However, they're doing that underneath the like white
Yeah.
umbrella, white texture umbrella.
Yeah.
So I think it's I've always found it really endearing, like to be in the environment. But then you also have the downside where a lot of people are mistreated and are chastised. So there is a lot of humility, whether it's like, you know, stems from like a good place or not. There's a lot of humility that you find that I don't always find. Like when I work in the music industry, you gotta bring like,
Assess level of like.
you just gotta bring all the ego to the table. You gotta bring everything, and if you don't, people are literally gonna step on you as soon as they see you. And that's what I've, you know, experienced more
I
in
think
that
it's
realm.
kind of weird though, now that you said that, because I feel like music and fashion go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
for it to have like, for them to be kind of like opposite
So I'm
in a
gonna
sense,
explain
you know,
something
it's
that
like,
I just learned yesterday, but I think the reason for that is the music industry has been centered around the entertainment industry, and it's been
Yeah.
so structured for so long. And the contracts that existed in the music and entertainment industry stemmed
Yeah.
from slavery contracts. So in essence, the contracts that a lot of artists sign, all the greats and a lot
Yeah.
of people now still have signed,
Yeah.
are holding the rights to their art, their music, their humanity,
Creativity,
not just
yeah.
their creativity, not just while they're working, but after they work
Yeah.
for a specific amount of years, you know. So I think there is that duress that already existed for so long in the music
Yeah.
industry, and there's a lot of free exchange without reciprocity. A lot of
Yeah.
people's stuff gets stolen, and it's
Definitely.
way easier to steal beats than it is to steal like
Yeah, no, I
fashion.
agree, it's true.
So I think there is a lot of animosity still from, you know, the upper class and the lower class, and that division between that those people in fashion, but I think because the structure hasn't always existed, it's been very like loose for so long that
it'll be hard for it to just like
it eliminates that need to head straight to ego. But not to say that you're not going to find a lot of ego people. That's kind of what you find a lot of in both places, but you find that anywhere.
Anywhere,
you know?
yeah, I was going to say anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Okay, my final question is, are you ready?
I'm ready.
What fascinates you most about people? That is my final question. Because I am fascinated by people for many
I am
reasons,
so fascinated by people, and sometimes I'm really not at all.
It depends on your subject. I feel the same way. Like, not everybody I find fascinating.
I've sat down with someone and they talked to me about dirt for 2 hours, and I still listened to them, and I was still like, you know,
That
interesting.
doesn't even sound real.
I'm fascinated by people that just have something to share, like that have experience, that have learned, that know something. Like I'm fascinated by someone coming to me and telling me about astral projection, and as much as I am by someone showing me sketches to their designs, I'm fascinated by people who just understand that life is what you make it, and you have a purpose in this life, and try to imagine and create things that serve that purpose. Whether it doesn't even have to be creativity, there's any extent of. I'm fascinated by lawyers, anyone. You know, it's not even like your occupation.
Passion for it.
Yeah, just people have passion, and we're unique. But I also understand like sometimes you are unique and sometimes you're not. It's not really.
It depends.
It depends on the moment, but I think passion is something that's always important to have. Like, and I think everyone has it. It's just some people haven't found it yet, and they become a little bit more like lackluster, and some people have, and that's okay.
Thank you for this.
Thank you for the walk up the hill.
It was a cool. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was chill.
It was chill.
It was like
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It was a nice morning walk.